I believe we had gotten to the point of that. That is the election of 1824. Yesterday, if you guys did not notice, and as I've been watching people review, when we talk about the American system, the era of good feelings, they go together. Remember, the very big important thing that kind of connects the Missouri Compromise is balance, 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 and of course the balance is in the Congress. Do not underestimate the fact that we just created a protective tariff and we just created the National Bank. Folks, you are beginning to see very sectional. We did not do a lot of fighting yet. We did not do a lot of arguing. Trust me, the arguing is coming. Whether you like it or not, anytime the North votes yes and the South is voting no, it's a sectional issue. The fighting is coming. So far, Missouri Compromise, Hartford Convention were the best examples of fighting. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the election. This is the election of 1824. And if you want, just so nobody screws it up, because this is one of those items you should be expected to know for the final and stuff, this election is also known as the corrupt bargain. What you are going to see is this is one of our famous elections. It is messed up, goofed up, there's a problem. And because there's a problem, that is why the election becomes more important. And when you look at this election, some of you are like, well, that's what happened. Some of you are like, that's unfair. The biggest thing you have to remember is, what is the political situation in America right now? Right here. It's the era of one party, right? So folks, what happened, because there is a Republican, everybody, and every one of them is they're a Democratic Republican. In fact, the only way to differentiate them, and ladies and gentlemen, there are some of these men you are going to need, and the ones that are most important are him. So what happens is we vote, and in a minute, some of you are going to get completely screwed up. Jackson gets 99. Adams gets 84. Crawford gets 41. Clay gets 37. And I apologize if I didn't tell you, Calhoun, before the election, dropped out, and he ran for vice president. So that was the vice president. He dropped out. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we've talked about elections before. Most of you, I think, are at the point, okay, here's the election, I got it. Folks, the problem is, according to the United States Constitution, in order to be elected president, you need a majority. What is the big problem is you have 4 men running, and they all were relatively popular. The problem was there was no clear-cut winner. If you do your math, there's 261 votes. Therefore, in order to be elected president, you need 131. Therefore, according to the Constitution, what happens? The top 3 go to the House. So, ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about the corruption, when we talk about the election of 1824, the issue is no majority. So, folks, what happens is the 3 men go, and here's where the problem comes. I'm going to be dead flat honest. What does Andrew Jackson believe? I'm not kidding. Andrew Jackson believed he won. In fact, he packed up his suitcase. He was heading to Washington. Andrew Jackson was a soldier. He was a man of honesty and integrity. And Andrew Jackson believed that there was a vote. And in simple terms, what did he do? He got the most votes. I win. So Andrew Jackson headed to Washington. Okay. Folks, where does the problem get confusing? See this guy, Henry Clay, from Kentucky? What really helped to make a problem is he lost. He can't be the president. Does everybody understand that? He happens to be the Speaker of the House. Remember, we said that the House makes the decision. So now you have one of the losers who really becomes the leading voice in picking the winner. Well, that sucks. And you also have to imagine, as we begin to pick the winner, Henry Clay kind of believes, what does he have?
37.
Those are his votes, right? What should he be able to determine? Who gets my votes? That's a lot of votes. But we have another problem. So one, these guys go to the House. Jackson believes he's already won. Henry Clay wants to play politics. And what screws everything up is William Crawford. I don't think he plans, has a stroke. Literally, William Crawford has a stroke. He's bedridden. People don't know if he's going to live or die. Can William Crawford's name be pulled off the ballot? No. Can he be replaced with Henry Clay? No. In a weird way, if you vote for William Crawford, who are you really voting for? John C. Calhoun. So ladies and gentlemen, I want you to now think about the problem. You now have 3 men, but in reality, what are a lot of people in the House very hesitant to do? Vote for? Now, what is the problem if nobody votes for Crawford?
Where does this vote go?
Folks, the problem comes is normally you would assume that Jackson's 99 votes are going to go back to who? Adams' 84 votes are going to go back to Adams. Crawford's votes go to Crawford, and basically it's going to come kind of just redistribute these votes. But what happens is all of a sudden now you have, what, 78 votes that are up in the air. So what happens is it becomes a lot of politicking. It becomes a lot of negotiating. According to Andrew Jackson, it becomes a lot of crooked deals. Because literally, think about this. The House of Representatives votes, and the House of Representatives decides, there's our president. Ladies and gentlemen, I know some of you are screwing this up, and you wrote, no, Jackson is not. He loses. Quincy Adams wins. Now think about this in a bigger perspective. There is your president. There is your vice president. Henry Clay will be chosen Secretary of State. Crawford dies. If you're Andrew Jackson, where is your anger going to start coming from? I got the most votes. I got the most, and I end up with what? Nothing. I got bupkis. I got ripped. And that's where the term corrupt bargain. Jackson believes that the politicians went and made deals. And again, what was the proof? Adams wins, and he picks Clay. According to Jackson, that is the proof that there was a deal, that there was sort of negotiating. And here's where the anger comes. Andrew Jackson begins to argue who was cheated.
The people.
The people. Because in America, in a democracy, who votes? And in this election, it appears that the vote means nothing. So, ladies and gentlemen, Andrew Jackson, A, is pissed. B, Andrew Jackson decides that this is a bunch of crap. He denounces the Democratic Republicans. And ladies and gentlemen, in 1824, 1825, Andrew Jackson becomes the founder of the Democrats. Folks, if you look at the modern political parties, if you refer to yourself or if you think you're a Democrat, that starts with Andrew Jackson. And what is the background of the Democrats? Representation of the people. The people were cheated. And now let's think about it, because honestly, it is so funny and cool. What is the symbol of the Democratic Party? Why? Ladies and gentlemen, people didn't like Jackson. He is stubborn. He is very pig-headed. And they began to refer to him as a mule. Stubborn. And ladies and gentlemen, instead of Jackson was like, dang right I am. Because you deals. You people don't do what's best for the people. You make deals to keep yourself rich. Flat out. The Democratic Party is they're not a donkey. They're a jackass. Because Andrew Jackson is stubborn. And he's not going to make deals because it's easier for people. He's going to make people happy. He's not going to make deals because it's what we always do. He is now pissed. And where do we see him again? In fact, it's not just 1828. For the first time in the history of the United States, what is going to happen for the next 4 years? What is Andrew Jackson going to be doing every week, every month, constantly?
Yeah.
He's going to be campaigning, he's going to be speaking, he's going to be attacking, because Andrew Jackson in most of his speeches basically says, I have the right to talk, I have the right to critique this, because I should be the president. So Andrew Jackson for 4 years is going to be an absolute pain in the butt for John Quincy Adams. Because anything Quincy Adams does, Jackson's going to be like, I would have done it better. And you have to remember, Jackson is one of those people that is really, really popular with the folks. Remember New Orleans. Remember the Creek War. And now, what have you done? You've pissed him off. Ooh. You're going to find out. You do not want to piss him off. He's a bad, bad adversary. Some of you know people who really love sports, and they get really, really competitive with a loss. The best example is Jordan was supposed to have been nuts. He is angry. And folks, this is not going to be the gracious defeat. This is not going to be the, hey, that's the way it happened. No. Andrew Jackson believes he was cheated. He believes the American people and the rich people manipulated. And what is going to be the big change when he becomes president? Andrew Jackson believes he is the voice and he is the vindication of the people. And to some degree, Andrew Jackson is going to start sticking it to the status quo in Congress. He could care less if they don't get what they normally get. What some people argue is really what happens between 1824 and 1828 is Andrew Jackson learns, he was already a very good military leader, he was a good leader, he learns to become more of a politician. He learns that, sometimes you have to think before you speak maybe, or you have to learn how you're going to deal with people. Ladies and gentlemen, with John Quincy Adams, there is only one item you will see on the test, and here it comes, other than the election, excuse me. Folks, the one item that we'd like to address is the Tariff of 1828. The Tariff of 1828, folks, what you're going to notice is John Quincy Adams, the country is doing well. Cotton is flourishing, textiles is expanding. Even though we have not talked about it a lot yet, at this time in history, the United States is doing very, very well. So Quincy Adams doesn't have a bad. The only problem is he doesn't get the credit because Jackson is constantly attacking. When we get to the end of John Quincy Adams' term, you are about to have a problem. The Tariff of 1828, which is a very controversial bill because it's a tariff. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what sectionalism means. Half the country loves it, half the country hates it. Why would you normally avoid this in 1828? It's an election year. Why do you not want to bring up controversial issues in an election year? Because people are going to be pissed. Folks, I'm telling you right now, if you bring up a tariff, no matter what you do, what are you going to guarantee is going to happen? No matter how you vote, half the country just got mad at you. Is that correct? It's kind of like today. The only time presidents bring up controversial issues is if they're in the middle of their second term. Why?
You don't have to worry about it.
I'm not going to be reelected, right? I don't care if you get pissed at me. I'm done. Makes sense. Ladies and gentlemen, what happens, and do you know what the problem is with the Tariff 1828? It's brought up by the Democrats. Now, let's think about that. The Democrats bring up a protective tariff. Now, the Democrats represent who? Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson is a frontiersman, slave owner from Tennessee. Therefore, if you kind of are thinking through your brain, generally speaking, the Democrats are going to be associated with what part of the country? They're generally Southerners, maybe some Western. Now, I just told you that the Democrats in 1828 brought up a protective tariff. What's wrong?
South doesn't like
The South, ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to teach you a lesson. Remember I said Jackson learned how to play politics? Normally, you guys assume you bring up a bill that you like and want. Ladies and gentlemen, the Democrats brought up a bill, not that they wanted, they brought up a bill to be a pain in the butt. They brought up a bill to be like, you have to deal with it. It was designed to get people mad at Quincy Adams right before the election. That's the purpose of the bill. The only problem is, and this is where I think you need to start looking at the kind of, oh crap. The reality was, the Democrats believed that the tariff of 1828 was so stupid, so dumb, so poorly written, because what they did is they put a tariff on finished goods and raw materials. And the idea was, okay, so let's say you make shirts, but the buttons are taxed as they come across, or like the cotton, whatever the case is. The problem is the South believed that the tariff of 1828 was so poorly written that any intelligent person would veto it. Where the problem is you have such a division, sectional, 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 is the South and the North are so divided on the importance of tariffs that the South believed that what would happen is Quincy Adams would see that it was a horrible bill, and out of the stupidity of the bill, Quincy Adams would actually do what? He'd veto it. There would be no tariff. And of course, the South, the Democrats, would basically go to the North and say, look, your president, he vetoed a protective tariff. Politics, right? But guess what? What the South didn't understand is in the North, protective tariffs are so vital they are so important that even a bad one is better than none, he signed it. So we get a situation where first you see kind of a political trap. We then see a situation of how badly the country is split. And probably most important. Folks, when we look at the tariff of 1828, you begin to once again see that issue of tariffs coming in. You begin to see the question of, are they constitutional? And most importantly, we are now going to get the challenger. When John Quincy Adams signs it, the person who is going to make a personal vendetta, the person who is going to make the public challenge, the person who is going to become the leader of the opposition against tariffs will be John C. Calhoun. And of course, that is extremely comfortable because John C. Calhoun is what currently? So, ladies and gentlemen, you now have a vice president who is openly challenging the president, and John C. Calhoun from the state of South Carolina is going to begin to once again make this very passionate argument that tariffs are illegal. In fact, John C. Calhoun and his cohorts are going to rename it the tariff of abomination, the tariff from hell, the tariff of, stupidity, the tariff of evil. And more important. So, ladies and gentlemen, what do we have right now? The Democrats want to hurt Adams. They create a tariff. Adams signs the tariff. North and South begin to argue. John C. Calhoun basically comes out as the champions. The tariffs suck. John C. Calhoun is a South Carolinian. So, when you ask for a party, technically he would probably still say he's a Democratic Republican. He would simply say Adams is an idiot. When you talk about Calhoun, the absolute number one thing you have to know is he is from South Carolina. He is a die-hard state rights, my state comes first. If this is bad for South Carolina, I could care less what my party says. We don't want it. Folks, the last item with Calhoun is this, and this is really the big thunder. Folks, at this point, we basically created a tariff. Henry Clay had already created one in 1816. This is a more protective tariff. We also get the idea of playing politics. Folks, the last thing you need to be aware of in the tariff abominations is John C. Calhoun writes the South Carolina Exposition and Protest. Big, big, really big, holy crap, big, big. The South Carolina Exposition and Protest. Now, what should your brain be noticing? This is an attack against Adams. This is an attack against the tariff of 1828. The South Carolina Exposition and Protest. Ladies and gentlemen, the South Carolina Exposition and Protest is a rant, an attack. It is a list of arguments of why the tariff is wrong, it is illegal, and most importantly, in the South Carolina Exposition and Protest, for the second time in our class, nullification is brought back up. South Carolina is beginning to suggest, they are beginning to propose. Ladies and gentlemen, as we start fighting about tariffs and as we start bringing in nullification, sectionalism is back. Sectionalism is literally the division north and south. The north is voting yes. Think about it. Half of the country believes this is the single most important thing for the future of America, the north. The other half of the country believe that this is a pure violation of the Constitution and is not even allowed. There is a huge rift about whether this can even be done. So please understand, when you look at the tariff of 1828, the big issue you have to get it back in your head is the redevelopment of nullification.